Hello. Have you ever needed a way to keep a better handle on your operating and payroll expenses? Maybe right now in the systems you use, it's hard to get to that level of information, so you don't view it very frequently. And maybe at times you've been burned before, where an expense started to really shoot up and you didn't notice it until several months down the road when it was really impacting your bottom line. And by then it was hard to go back and change what some of that trend looked like. What I want to do is show you a Tableau dashboard that's taking information out of whatever system would hold your expenses. In this case, I'm viewing a QuickBooks data source, but this could be pulling from any ERP. And it would basically be updated daily, so you could go in and get some good insights on your expenses. So we'll be looking at operating and payroll expenses in total. We'll see what some of those trends have looked like, have any categories stood out recently, and then we'll be able to break it down by the top 25 either vendors or employees that have had the highest expense that we've paid out in the period we're looking at, and also see how they've trended over time. Okay, so here's our Tableau dashboard. Let me take a minute to get you oriented on what we're looking at, and then we'll see if we could find a few insights that would be interesting to maybe look at further. So first of all, just to mention across the top here, we have some different periods that we can select. So what I'm doing right now is I'm basically comparing Q4 of 22 to the previous two quarters. So basically comparing a 3-month period to a 6-month period. We're able to do that in this dashboard because we're taking everything down to a monthly rate. So we can compare 3 months to 6 months and we'll get meaningful results. Okay, so first we're just going to see some high-level statistics. This is showing that our total expenses in the period were about $327,000. So a monthly average, because we're looking at this 3-month period, of about $110,000. What this is showing on the good side is that's actually down about $10,000 per month, or 9% from the comparison period. As we look down at the trend graph, we can get some other information on how things trend over time for us. We're showing the highest month of expenses, in this case August, of $176,000. We're showing the lowest month, in this case March of 23, and then what the average month was. So that's a good way to give us some indications of the high, the low, and then the average. Next up in this graph on the right-hand side, we're doing a comparison or relationship of what has the percent change from the comparison period been on this axis, and then the dollar change on this axis down here. So ideally, we would see everything down in this bottom left quadrant over here, and this would show that our expenses are lower now than what they had been previously. And then on the flip side, we don't want to see things up here, meaning that we're now paying more than we did previously. And then, as you can see, this is plotting each of our different expense categories. And then the size of the circle is the overall expense amount. I'll come back to this when we start to look at some of our takeaways. And then finally, down here at the bottom, what we're doing is we're just filtering on our top 25 expenses so we can stay focused on what's most critical. And then we're showing are those up or down from that comparison period. What has the trend over time look like? And then what's the total expense amount? And then you can see as I hover over one of these, we can get a little more information on the trend and then if we're up or down from the previous period. Okay, so now that you kind of know what we're looking at, let's see if we can find a few takeaways here. So I'm going to go back up to this scatter plot, and let's just, for example, in this case, let's look at rent, utilities, and maintenance. So I'll just park there for a second. It's showing our total expenses in this period are about $65,000. So this is our second largest category. By month, it's about $21,000, and that compares to $20,000 in that comparison period. So we're up about $1,600 or $700, $1,600 or $1,700 per month, or 8%. So that feels like something that would be worth looking at and trying to understand some more. So then if we scroll down to our top 25 expenses and we find our rent and utilities area, we're going to see some different vendors that we've paid in the past. Because I'm trying to keep this information confidential, we just have some kind of fake vendor names here, but you would imagine these would show normal vendor names that you're familiar with based on your data. So as we're kind of looking at what stands out here, this second one is up 200% compared to previous periods. So that would definitely be something we would want to look into more. And the trend has definitely been increasing even into this year. And in total, we paid about that $8,000 per in the full amount of time, which is up about $1,800 per month. So that's basically where all of our additional expense is coming from. So this would be a good one, again, that now that we know what vendor is driving this, is we could then compare that to what else we know in the business. And it doesn't make sense that this vendor is way up. If not, we definitely need to get on it right away before this continues to trend in this direction and we see increased expenses from a vendor. Okay, so that was a quick overview of the payroll and operating expense dashboard. I think this one's nice for a few reasons. And one is just that it keeps this at the expenses at your fingertips, so you can look at it frequently. I think sometimes people get burned because they don't review their expenses often enough. So something will start to happen and it'll trend over time, and maybe you don't catch it until 3, 4, 6 months down the road. And you've wasted all this money, where if you would have caught it right at the very beginning, maybe there was an action you could have taken before the expense really started to skyrocket. So this one's also nice because in just reviewing it for a minute or two, you can get a good overview of your high-level expenses. You can see what categories are either up or down over previous periods, and then get down into the detail of a single vendor or a person that you're paying, and see what the trend has been on those. And if anything doesn't match what you would expect, that's something that you would want to go in action. So I hope you have some ideas about how you might be able to use this with your brewery's information. If you have any questions on it, or if you would like to see your information coming through a dashboard like this, so it's always ready for you to go out and view, please contact me. My email is jeremy@centralcoast-analytics.com. And that email is jeremy@centralcoast-analytics.com. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.